we're all set to begin this whole podcast train. Choo-choo!
Because this is our podcast, and it's called what?
Creature of the Night Podcast, and I'm Chris.
I'm Wendy. And there you go. We're done with that mess.
Moving on.
Haunted trains are probably lots of fun.
I've never been on one.
Well, I don't believe that I have ever been on one either, but in West Yellowstone, in Montana, there is a train inside like a lobby of a hotel, I think. Maybe there was a restaurant there, so maybe it's just the restaurant. But there's like a train car in the lobby, and you could just go on it and walk on it, and it's all decked out like it was back in, I don't know, 1930 or something. And so it looks super cool and super cute on the inside. But as it was just the four of us walking it, nobody else was around. I was like, I bet this thing is totally haunted. Just because it's still, I have a weird thing about old furniture, and I'm just like, it's all creepy and haunted.
Man, and I got to get out to Montana because now we have House of Screams and haunted trains. Yes, I'm loving it.
I just watched an episode the other day. It was an old episode of some paranormal show. Now I can't remember. And it was a hotel in Montana. And when they said it was Dillon, Montana. And I was like, we fucking have been to Dillon, Montana. Why did I not think about this? This is where we went to a state park that's outside of Dillon, Montana, or it's in Dillon, Montana, and I had an experience there too. And I was like, we gotta win by this place, but I think it's closed.
Oh,
so I got to tell you, the other day I was listening to a My Favorite Murder minisode, and if you've never listened to it, we've talked about it before. So if you're a fan of our show, you've heard of their show. But if you've never listened to their show before, if you're at all into true crime and you have a comedic side to yourself, you'd love this fucking podcast. So you should check it out. But I was listening to a minisode, and they were reading.
I love their minisodes.
I'm starting to maybe like the minisodes more than I like the regular shows sometimes. I mean, they're still really good too, but the minisodes are full of hilarious shit and just extreme stories too.
So on my side, when I'm playing My Favorite Murder podcast and it ends, it just jumps, and it doesn't jump in order. It just skips to whatever it finds. And I'm like, keep my fingers crossed. I don't even look at my phone. I'm like, let it be a mini, let it be a mini, let it be a mini. Because I like them. I really do like their minis.
Well, I get behind sometimes because I'm listening to audiobooks. I really dig audiobooks. Not so much when they're business related, because that's what I've been listening to a lot of. I did listen to one. Nobody cares about this, but I did listen to this one real estate book, and I was getting so pumped listening to it. It was so great. And it's called The Honest Real Estate Agent, I think. I might be getting that title wrong. But if you're a real estate agent and you happen to be into the paranormal and listening to this podcast, listen to that audiobook, because it was really good. But now I'm on one about negotiating, and I'm just like, bore me. It's not as great for sure, but trying to get my education on, better myself. Mm-hmm. But so I get behind on podcasts, but when I go to My Favorite Murder, I'm like, I could knock out a bunch of these listening to the minisodes, and so I'll like skip the regular shows and just listen to all the minisodes, and they're so hilarious. But this story is hilarious. It's not a murder, but it is totally fucked up. It's so crazy. So they were telling a story that a guy had pulled up to a Wendy's, and he ordered food, and then he goes to the drive-through window. And as the Wendy's employee is handing the guy his drink, the guy in the car throws a 3-foot alligator through the drive-through window.
Come on, no! What's wrong with that person?
And then he just drove off, and he's like, ha ha ha, like it's a prank, He's just playing around. He didn't know the Wendy's employee or anything. He just thought this would be so hilarious. So wow. Karen had brought up a really good point. Karen from My Favorite Murder. Again, if you don't listen to the show, you should. She brought up an amazing point that I totally agree with. Pranks are not meant for strangers.
No kidding.
They're not even meant for loose, companions or anything like that. Like, I know that person from work, but we don't really know each other. Don't pull a prank on them then. They don't know you. Right. You don't know them. You don't know how this is going to affect them. Alligators flying at people might be funny to some, might not to others.
That's cool.
assault.
Not cool.
I mean, like,
that's assault. Damn. That's insane. So I guess he died?
No. I mean, and to throw an alligator through a window, some of those windows are not that big. So I guess 3 feet for an alligator is not like very huge. And nobody got harmed or anything.
Oh, okay.
They came and they got the alligator and then released it back to the wild. And I don't know if the guy got in trouble for it or if they all were just like, oh, that Bill, he's so silly.
I wonder if that guy thought it was like tradesies. You give me Wendy's food, I give you alligator. Like, what did he see on TV? What were the voices in his head telling him? He's just like, yes.
What was he on? I mean, like, this is ridiculous. So.
Right. I missed that national trade alligator for Wendy's food day. Totally missed that one.
So that happened in Florida. Where,
of course it did.
Where like seeing alligators is just like common daily activity. So maybe it didn't even scare the Wendy's employee that much because I imagine seeing alligators there is a lot like how you see turkeys in your parking lot in your area and stuff. They're just everywhere. But I told you and I think I said this in the podcast. I don't know, but we camped in Florida once and the water hose to our camper, it had bite marks on it.
Oh, yes. I will never forget that story. That's terrifying.
The people next to us camping had a little dog, but I just don't see how that little dog punctured holes in this hose. Like, they're pretty industrial, because it's the only way to get water to your camper anyway.
Nope.
So speaking of Florida, and I'm telling everyone else, recently myself and my family, we went to the Sunshine State for vacation. And while our final destination, our main destination was the very cool Universal Studios in Orlando, I did inform my household that to make this trip worth it to me, which is kind of like a shitty thing to say because I was excited about Universal too, but I act like it's some kind of like, I got to get a tradesies on this.
Alligator, tradesies, Wendy's.
Yeah. Well, we did. And we went to an alligator farm too that my kids were like, we must go there. And it was in where I insisted we have to go. So it all worked out for everybody. This wasn't like super painful for my kids or anything. But I insisted that we have to stop in St. Augustine along the way. And that's where there's an amazing alligator farm. It's expensive, in my opinion, but it was so cool. There's like dinosaurs there. These alligators are so big.
Oh, my God.
That's why I said, you think like 3 feet, these alligators were like 17 feet and 1,000 pounds or something ridiculous.
And they were behind plate glass windows. I mean,
they were behind something. They were not going to be, I think they were too big to try to climb any walls to come after you. But it was pretty crazy that you could you could probably have hung your arm over and gotten pretty close to them.
Oh, hell no, not me.
I'm telling you, from what I witnessed, alligators are just not into you. They don't care. Unless you reek of something like dead and rotten that they want to eat. And not that I don't think they eat dead, rotten stuff, but you gotta smell like their food.
The ones at the farm, they're getting fed pretty well, so they're not going to come after you. But the ones that are out there in the Florida Everglades, they're not getting that sort of treatment, so they're just going to go for whatever.
I don't know. I think that 3-foot one that got thrown through the window was probably like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I bet it wasn't trying to eat anyone. It was just like, Bill had me in that car for 30 minutes, laughing his ass off, thinking this was going to be the best. Can you please just let me back outside? Can I have a hamburger on the way? I don't know. I don't know if they eat that stuff.
They got good frosties.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like their French fries too. They're natural cut.
Me too.
So back to my demand to my family that we will be stopping in St. Augustine. And I have some, ghost exploring, haunted location exploring to do. And they all roll their eyes. And the trade-off is the alligator farm. Yeah. And then nobody cared. Everybody was fine with it. They're used to it.
Sweet trade-off, though. I mean, the alligator farm seemed interesting.
It was a good find. They were totally down for whatever else I wanted to do for the rest of the day because they got their animal fix.
Nice.
Yeah. So
good planning.
That's how I roll as a paranormal mom,
That's how you have to roll. Exactly.
Just find the zoos near the haunted places and your kids are set.
Everyone's happy that way.
So St. Augustine sets on the Atlantic coast of northeastern Florida. It was founded in 1565 on the site of a former Native American village called Saloy. Spanish Admiral Pedro Melendez de Avil, maybe I'm saying that wrong. My Spanish is not so good. He named the city St. Augustine because he and his crew first spotted this land after months of sailing on the feast day of the saint by the same name. So on the feast day of St. Augustine is when they first saw land after so long of sailing from Spain. St. Augustine is the oldest continuously inhabited European established settlement within the borders of the continental United States. And it's a location that has been on my paranormal bucket list since I was a teenager.
Yeah, right.
I remember it was one like lazy afternoon, weekend or something like that. And I was just flipping through channels and I stumbled upon a show that was all about St. Augustine. Maybe it was on the Travel Channel. Maybe, I don't know. But it was all about St. Augustine being so super haunted that the locals say that you could basically just like sit out on your porch and watch the ghosts go up and down the street just doing their ghostly activities.
Wow. You know? Why am I here? Then I just need to get a house in St. Augustine, apparently.
Exactly. So I was like, I love lazy ghost hunting. Even as a teenager, I knew this about myself. If all I have to do is sit out on the porch with some binoculars and a nice tea and watch this show, like, count me in.
Right, exactly. It's free.
Yes. Yes.
Love it.
Well, you have to buy the house in St. Augustine. It's by the beach. It's probably expensive property.
Expensive, yeah.
So over the years, I've researched here and there stories of all the hot spots around St. Augustine. And there's a lot, given it has such a long history and a pretty rough history, too. I could not believe that this was finally my chance to see it in person. But I had only one day to do it. So I was talking about that trade-off with my kids. I always get the shorter end of the stick, though. We got, like 4 or 5 days in Orlando, 4 days at a park, but I get 1 day in a whole haunted city where like everything is haunted and ghosts are just everywhere apparently. And I got 24 hours to make this magic happen.
So whose porch did you sit down on? Grab your binoculars.
Exactly. I should have just walked up to anybody's porch and been like, excuse me, I'm just going to be here for a while. Anyways, so this is my one and only chance to explore St. Augustine. I had to decide what was my must-sees and what was my must-explores. So we did a lot of drive-bys on locations, but like the old jail that's said to be super haunted. But from what I read, it's kind of set up a little hokey and a little theater-like. So I decided that's just a drive-by. Then there's the St. Augustine Lighthouse. Well, it's only open until a certain time, and there's going to be a million people there. So I passed on that one too. The old Spanish hospital, it's kind of crammed in the middle of town, and the parking is horrible. Please work on that, St. Augustine. Girl, get some more land somewhere. So in a panic, because we have a stupid big truck, like we were driving down one of the streets and people park on the street and stuff too. And I totally gave a warning. You're about to hit this stop sign or whatever. Like the mirror is going to hit the stop sign. Nope. Just barreled into it. It hit the mirror. It didn't break. Thank God. I'm just having to like push it out. It's kind of like New Orleans.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But a more pirate feel to it, which is fun.
Yeah.
So the streets are terrible to drive on. I definitely suggest finding a good parking spot kind of on the outer side of the downtown and then walking all of that. Yeah. Especially if you have a stupid vehicle like ours and it's too big.
Yeah.
and then we drove by the cemeteries, of course. Cool. From what I understand, you actually can't get into any of the cemeteries. Damn. They are off limits to walking through the cemeteries, but you can stand along the gate and you can get a lot of great pictures, which I did. And they're very pretty.
Is it along the same lines then again of New Orleans where you have to like find a tour and take the tour?
They don't let you in at all.
Wow.
But from what I read, and I did not see anyone ever in the cemeteries, and we went by one late at night and stuff too. Like hung out
I bet.
Quite some time.
I bet to hang out. Yes.
Yeah.
If I know my Wendy, that's all she was doing, hanging out at the cemetery.
Well, there's one right across the street. There's one cemetery that's pretty famous that's right across the street from the main location that I decided was my must explore. This is the one I'm going to stop. We're going to park. We're going to spend some hours in here. Get ready, family. And that is the Castillo de San Marcos. So the Castillo de San Marcos is unique in North American architecture. This is just a fun fact, as it is the only intact 17th century military construction in the country.
Damn.
And it is the oldest and largest masonry fortress in the United States.
Wow.
It's actually really interesting to me that the material that it's made out of, which is, I'm going to totally say this wrong, but it's like coquina? Maybe? It's like a light porous stone that most people would think that's a terrible choice for a fort. It's not a very solid, strong material, but it was the only stone in abundance for them to build this structure. Okay. And it actually turned out to be a really smart decision because it's got all these little like microscopic air pockets in it. So it makes it compressible.
Is that like concrete then?
No, it's not as solid as concrete. Okay. It's got like pores in it. So when a cannon's fired at it, it just kind of burrows in the rock and gets stuck there instead absorbs of exploding.
Wow, yeah. That's insane. It's just like I'll take that.
I'll keep that.
I'm keeping it. Makes me warm and fuzzy inside. Love it. That's crazy.
Something hard and solid like granite or brick would have exploded due to that kind of impact. Where this one was just like, cool, I got it.
Wow.
Like a softball mitt.
Mine now.
So a lot of people say that is what, or that has a lot to do with why the fortress is standing today.
Yeah, and haunted, right? Because it's absorbing all that energy.
It's a type of limestone, too. Or it has those kind of like materials in it.
You chiseled off a piece of it, right? I know it was probably like fighting with you, right? It probably tried to take that chisel from you, but you
all the park rangers are watching me and I'm just like scraping it with my ice pick.
Yes. Wet.
We're not supposed to do this?
Oh, my bad. Hold on. I'm almost done.
Well, there's all kinds of holes in it anyways. What is it going to hurt? No, but we'll go back and do that, okay?
All right.
We know to pack ice picks next time. So St. Augustine actually began with only wooden forts along the coastline.
Whoa.
The settlement of St. Augustine existed for like a little over 100 years, defending themselves from Native American tribes, invading Englishmen, and even pirates.
Yes.
For that long with just these wooden forts.
Whoa.
But after an attack in 1668 by the English pirate Robert
De Niro?
Yes. You know he's always a bad guy. Even when he's a good guy, he's a bad guy.
He's always a bad guy.
I think it's Surly or something. So, English pirate Robert Surly, during which the town of... I hope everybody can hear my question mark when I say things and I'm like, is that how you pronounce it? Anyways. During which the town of St. Augustine was burnt to the ground.
Damn.
And those forts were deemed inadequate. So, Queen Regent of Spain, Mariana, approved the construction of the masonry fort to protect the city. Construction began in 1672 and was completed in 1695.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah. So over its long history, Castillo de San Marcos was attacked several times and twice besieged, but never taken by force. It changed possession 6 times and has been ruled by 4 different governments.
Wow.
Spain, Great Britain, the United States, and the Confederate States for a short time. However, all of those possessions were handled peacefully.
Oh, okay.
But the fact that the fort was always handed over with no fight doesn't mean that it hasn't had its share of dark days.
Yeah.
See, England and Spain, they didn't like each other. It's like siblings fighting over a room.
Or their video game, right?
yeah, just like every little thing is going to piss them off. Stop touching me, and you're in my space.
This is my Florida. Leave me alone, Spain.
Well, there was one story. This was in the very beginning, and it was the French. So Spain had claimed Florida, but the French were coming over and they were up in the Carolinas, I guess, but they landed like in Florida and then they marched through Florida to get to the Carolinas.
Ooh, wow.
Well, Spain heard about that and they were like, no motherfuckers, don't be trespassing. And I think that's what sent Pedro over there in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I guess we have to actually hang out in Florida to stop this from happening.
We got to keep an eye on this shit because otherwise people are just going to be walking through it all willy-nilly, just doing whatever they want.
All cutting through my grass here. You know, you hate when people do that right after you mowed and stuff too.
Yeah, right after you've laid out the fresh 3-foot alligators, you know, you just. I
think that's good meat. But during Queen Anne's War, the English laid siege to St. Augustine in November of 1702. About 1,500 town's residents and soldiers had to cram into the fort, and they lived there for 2 months while the town was under siege. The siege was broken when a Spanish fleet from Havana arrived, and they trapped the English vessels in the bay.
Damn.
Rather than be taken by the Spanish, the English burned their own ships, and then they snuck away on land. And then they went back to the Carolinas. This is when now England owns the Carolinas, not the French. I mean, they bounced out, I guess. I don't know. I didn't get that whole history lesson of when things change hands. Then again, in 1739, during the War of Jenkins' Ear, listen, that is really the name of this whole war.
Jenkins' Ear?
Yes, because it came from a whole fight that broke out in the Caribbean between some sailors. One of them, I don't think he was a sailor. I think he was more like a commanding officer, and his name was Jenkins. And a Spanish officer cut off his ear, Jenkins, and then handed it to him and said, "Tell your king I'll do the same to him." And that started a whole fight between them.
Damn.
See, they were just like pissy to each other. Any chance they could get, they were arguing about something.
But it's so funny that they named the war after that man's ear.
I'm thinking this thing didn't last for too terribly long, but it did last. I mean, like, there was a siege on St. Augustine, and everybody had to cram into the fort again. This one lasted for 27 days, and after the English saw that the cannons weren't working on these spongy walls, they were just getting soaked right up, they tried to blockade the river so where they couldn't get supplies in and starve the people out of the fort. But the English started to run low on supplies themselves, and they had to run, they had to retreat.
Wow, that backfired.
So, yeah, they're like, oh, wait, now we can't get our shit, too.
What the hell?
It's very poor planning. These people were just very hostile, like with each other.
And this whole time they're fighting because of the ear?
Yeah, just because that Spanish officer insulted them.
Wow, man, this is wild.
Pretty much. And made a threat to their king. That's what started the whole thing. That's probably why they didn't pack well or nothing.
Went for it.
They just got all pissy and they're like, we're going to go show them. And then they're like, did you pack all your underwear and did you pack enough, water? Nope. Yeah. Oh, shit. I got to go back home. Anyways, so in 1763, Britain gained control of Florida and the fort was renamed to Fort St. Mark and served as a prison during the American Revolutionary War. But in 1783, Spain got Florida back, and the fort went back to its original name. However, the newly freed United States, they were a bit too wild for Spain's taste.
I can't believe it.
What? You don't say. They were having all these issues with controlling their borders between Florida and what now belonged to the United States. And many of their own people had left anyways while Britain was under control of the fort. They had kind of all went back to Spain anyways. So in 1819, Spain just handed over Florida to the United States, and that was for good. They, weren't coming back.
They were kind of done with the whole thing. Like, just take it, guys.
Yeah, they weren't into it anymore. So the fort was renamed Fort Myron.
Really?
Yeah.
I used to work with a Myron. That's weird.
Oh. I'm starting to think that these country boys had problems saying Castillo de San Marcos, so they just kept changing it, like Mark and Byron, and they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
So under the U.S. control, the fort acted as a military prison to incarcerate members of the Native American tribes because they were still having wars with them down in Florida. So this was during the Second Seminole War. And then in 1861, the Confederacy held the fort for a short time before abandoning it to Union forces because they arrived off the coast. They got there pretty quick. And that, that little area of Florida was given up with pretty fast.
Okay.
So the Union controlled the fort and it acted as a prison. Most prisoners were still Native American and the conditions were horrible. Many inmates died there because of disease and abuse.
Yeah.
Things got kind of better after a Richard Henry Pratt became supervisor of the fort/prison, because that's the only thing it seems to be used for these days.
Oh, man.
He implemented education programs and missionary programs, and he allowed the prisoners to have like more freedoms on the grounds and everything. So it seemed like he was trying to be nice and like reform them or whatever. His efforts with the Native American people encouraged others to fund programs that would build schools or help fund them to go to college or something. But of course, none of this was truly a kind human act.
Wow.
No, because, with that, they also highly encouraged, if not forced them to give up their language, their religion, just their whole culture.
Yeah.
They were just trying to conform them into being just like them.
Right. That's easier for them.
And they told themselves, well, they'll never survive if they don't conform and be just like us. But we all know now that's not nice and it's not right.
Right.
In turn, it turned into a bigger, horrible thing all across the country. Native American children were being forcefully removed from their families and sent to boarding schools that were basically like labor camps.
Oh.
None of this directly happened in St. Augustine, but a lot of people contribute Pratt's efforts with the prisoners as what started this whole thing. It was just a complete, unjust, unfair time in our history. We got lots of them. So
yeah, I know. And as we said before, it doesn't seem like there's any like really chill, good places that have paranormal experiences. It's always, the places where the bad shit had happened.
Yeah, where all the bad emotions were.
Yeah.
But after that, in 1900, the fort was taken off of active duty after 205 years of service.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shit. That's a long ass time.
Yeah. And I mean, like in the early days between England and Spain, it was getting all this kind of like actual fort action, but then it was just kind of a prison. And I guess people were like, we could probably build a better prison, because if you see this place, it looks massive from the outside, but on the inside, you're like, oh, there's like 12 rooms in here. That's it.
Wow.
It's not very big. It's got a big yard.
Yeah.
But there's not a whole lot of spaces.
Huh.
So you kind of wondered, like, where did they put all these people?
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like when I said earlier, 1,500 residents,
yeah.
I'm like, people were definitely camping outside.
Yeah. They must have had did they have the hole or something?
There's one room that's set up to show you how the soldiers would have slept there, and it was a little up off the ground, and it's just a wood bed. And then there's just mats laid right next to each other. Like imagine sleeping bags just right next to each other. Wow. And that's how they would get all the soldiers. So you are sleeping with 15 other dudes.
Everybody,
on this bed. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how they packed them in. In 1924, it was declared a national monument. In 1933, it was deactivated, meaning that they got rid of all the ammunition and shit there, everything that makes it dangerous. And it became a part of the National Park Services. In 1942, the original name, Castillo de San Marcos, was restored by an act of Congress.
Interesting.
So, what makes this on my top paranormal haunted location list of St. Augustine?
Oh, I was so going to say, what is this place called today?
Well, you know what? Pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly. The word Castillo basically means fort, but it is funny because when you see signs leading up to the place, because it's a national park that you can go and you can visit and explore, and they do just national park type tours, and they'll shoot cannons off from it and stuff like that. All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how we had to visit it, is we just went at early morning trying to get there before everybody else did. And we just, got to walk around for quite a while. But it's also super haunted. And so while they don't do actual like ghost tours or anything like that, you can explore it. And the park rangers have shared many of their experiences there, what they've seen and what other people have seen. So this is a list of some of the basic stuff. So on the second floor, a soldier has been seen, usually with a lantern that's actually putting off light. They've heard footsteps all over the place, and nobody else is there. And some people have reported pushing in the cannon room. So far you're like, all right, that's pretty standard ghostly activity. Maybe the pushing's a little extreme, but Wendy, again, why is this so fucking haunted? Why do you love it so much?
Well, tell me more.
There's also reports of a floating head.
Oh, yes.
The floating head is believed to be of a Native American spirit. It's also believed to be specifically Chief Osceola, who died of natural causes. But after he died, a doctor, just for funsies, removed his head for study. I'm doing those air quotes. Who knows what that weirdo was doing with it?
Yeah, why? Let's study this guy's head? What the fuck? Why?
That's rude.
To say the least.
And I think super against their culture for their bodies to not be all like complete at rest. But maybe I'm making that up. I just thought I've heard that before. So it's believed that this head is looking for its body to get back together. I mean, like, feel complete.
What kind of tests? Do you have any information on like what he found with the head?
No, I only know that he kept it and people would see it in his office, and then eventually it just got they just misplaced it.
No. So do they know where the head is now?
No.
That's crazy.
That's what I read, is they don't know where it's at. Now, if there's a different story, then please correct me, because I didn't write that down.
You know what?
So I'm really quick to forget shit. I mean, I would lose a head because I'm so forgetful.
I think I know where it is.
Where is it?
You remember that skull that we saw at the Lemp? It was up.
That's so far away.
She didn't know who that belonged to either. I'm just saying.
She didn't. But it shows you that kind of stuff. No, they found that when they were digging around, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But you're not supposed to disturb stuff like that either.
Yeah, and just take it and put it as a prop. You just don't do that.
Oh, it's really rude.
Yes.
So there's also this really impressive photo out there on social media. And where's my phone? I'll send it to you, right now.
Sweet.
So you can look at it and witness it with me.
Nice.
It's a really impressive photo that's believed to be of a pirate that was sentenced to death at the fort. And this was just taken by somebody there. Like, it's on the grounds. I don't think it was in the actual fort. It's on the grounds around the fort. And they were just kind of walking around at night. It's such a good full body apparition that I'm always the asshole that's like, that's fake. So
That's insane.
It's not the dude in the back in white. That's just a regular dude. But it's the guy with like the high collar. And we're going to share this on social media and everything so you can see it for yourself. And please, if you've heard that this is bullshit before, share it with me, because I couldn't find that. And also just give me your thoughts, because again, when stuff looks too good to be true, I'm like, I don't know.
So what's the guy in the white in the back doing? Without arms, without legs.
I know, he's very concerning to begin with. This whole situation, and that's also the thing. Like, it's kind of a rough shot. There's other white misty things going on. It's really out of focus, but you can totally see this dude with a high collar on, like a fluffy collar. That you're like, that's not normal.
Yeah. People don't wear those kind of collars anymore unless they're, going to a Halloween event.
Also, look at his hair. It looks like it's floating. Standing up or floating.
Yeah.
Or that he's got little deer horns. I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah, that's a strange photo, to say the least. I mean, like, what's going on there in the front of his chest, too? It's bizarre.
I think that there's two other people on the other side. It's almost like there was a group out there. Which also you could think like, okay, so maybe there was a tour, maybe there was a tour, and they dress up in costume. Okay. So maybe this is all fake. Yeah. I don't know. It's everywhere and it's used as legit evidence. And that's why I'm a little, it's very intriguing. You always want to go there and see, I want to get a photo just like that. Mm-hmm. And that's why this is one of my favorite locations I had to check out. But I also wonder if it's complete horseshit.
What's weird to me is the woman's hair that's right there in the front, her hair seems to be lifting up too. So it could be a windy day, but his hair almost looks like it's part of his head that's lifting up.
Yeah, like he's in shock or something.
Yeah, really in shock, like a cartoon.
Really gross hair that is always stuck up, which that sounds very pirate-like.
Like The Simpsons, their head and the hair is all one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's very interesting. And like I said, it's circulated and it's I didn't see anybody questioning it. So, or just being like, I've seen that guy. That's tour guide Tim.
Tour guide Tim. He's always so silly with his crazy head hair situation.
Well, it's really hot there. We haven't been in humidity like that for a while. So it was difficult. I could see where you could sweat
wow.
that. So I know you're hearing all this and you're like, we're so on point. This is our jam, floating heads and pirate ghosts and stuff like that. But there's something for the romantic as well.
Wow, among the floating head?
Yeah. So there's been a perfume smell that has randomly come about around the Castillo, which leads to a tale of a love affair between a colonel's wife named Dolores and a Captain Emmanuel Abella. It's said that once the colonel had discovered his wife's perfume all over the captain.
Oh.
Right. That would be a really awkward situation.
Yeah,
You're
right?
just talking to someone and you're like, Hey,
my wife wears coconut scented perfume. How come you happen to smell like...
I mean, inside of a fort like this, how many women were around? So she was probably the fanciest lady and the only one wearing perfume. So it made it kind of easy, but makes an awkward moment.
What does she do? Spray him with it? I mean, how does that just transfer from... okay, hold on. I put my perfume on my skin. Because, typically I'm using oils. I don't want it on my clothes, I put it on my skin so I can absorb it. What was she doing with this perfume where she could just, get it on somebody else?
She'd be spraying it on her lady bits. No, I'm just playing. I don't know where she sprayed it, but I imagine she put a ton of it on. I mean, yeah. And I bet they didn't get to shower that often and stuff like that. So they're probably pretty heavily doused.
I was just going there.
As a lady trying to keep those smells down.
Whew. Man, I work with people who take late flights and they don't get showers in between and they douse themselves with cologne and then they want to come sit next to me and go over quotes and stuff. And it's like, man, I'm sorry that you didn't get to get a shower, but don't come up here with all of that. I can't breathe.
Look, to those people's defense, when
you can talk about your patchouli, aren't you?
Yes. On my non-shower days, I'm super heavy with the essential oils. That'll just hide that. Mm-hmm. Yep, I smell fresh. It's fine. So after the colonel smelt this perfume on the captain, Dolores and the captain were never seen again.
Oh, what?
It would be so nice just to believe that they ran off into the sunset together and we can all believe in true love and happiness. But I don't think that's what happened.
They got killed under a building that was collapsing, right? Just like in Game of Thrones.
The worst ending for those two. The worst.
Sorry. Yeah, she's raising her fist. You people do not see it, but...
I mean, bittersweet, whatever. They were awful people, though. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just a TV show, Wendy. Let it go. No, but when the National Park Service has a hold of the Castillo, they were doing something with a cannon. I can't even remember. They were doing something with a cannon, and that bitch fell through the floor. Oh. They were on the second floor, and it dropped. And then they go downstairs, and they're like, wait, where's that cannon? I mean, it should be right
Oh, my
here.
God.
Where is it? And so they're I don't know, tapping on the stone walls, and they're like, this sounds weird. And so they busted into the wall and they found a secret room.
Oh my God.
But in that secret room, they also found human bones. So they found chains and human bones, apparently.
Oh yeah? Was it male and female human bones?
You know what? They weren't real specific on the
Oh.
studies of these bones. And so it's just only kind of like rumored and believed that Dolores and the captain were chained up in there. And then they walled it up.
Dude.
And that was their like sentence to death.
Well, that's fucked up.
But nobody really knows. It could have just been other prisoners that were being held in there. But either way, it was walled up.
It was super secretive, so yeah.
They were in there and forgotten.
Man, I don't want to starve to death, dude.
I imagine you pass out eventually.
I hope.
And then,
I hope an hour in, I'm like, okay, brain, shut off. They walled me in. I'm not going to have water or food anymore. I mean, that's awful, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's always the hope that somebody will come and rescue you, I guess, before
the body
you waste
can
away
go on,
like that.
exactly.
But it can only go on for, what is it, like 8 days or something like that without water, though.
Oh, is that it? Really? Just 8 days?
I could be making that up, but I watch a lot of Alone, and I feel like they've said it before. It's not so much,
like,
you can go a long time without food, but it's water that's the real problem.
Water. I'm alone. They're like, I'm only on day 7. I've got one more day.
97 days later.
See a hand.
Yeah. They're just goners. They get so skinny on that show. Be a good diet.
Well.
I would get eaten by something. So, again, like I said, sadly, the Castillo doesn't do ghost tours or anything. But you can explore it during the day and try to get your paranormal investigating on. And we know from experience, things do happen during the day. So it's not a lost cause. And then, of course, the grounds around the Castillo are not off limits or anything. Nobody tries to stop you. You can walk around the outside of the walls where lots of activity has happened. And some people say that there's like a mass burial grave on the grounds in front of it as well.
Interesting.
So lots you can do. So I searched YouTube for videos on any paranormal happenings on the location. And also, which you may already know this and have just been politely remaining quiet, this location has totally been on TV before. So it was on Ghost Adventures in 2013. They did a show there. And I know I sound like a broken record, always retelling stories of locations that they have been to, but honestly, this wasn't like the biggest, greatest show ever. They didn't have a whole lot of evidence. They did have one really cool thing, so I am going to share that with you, but this wasn't the show that made me like, this place is amazing. So again, it's 2013. Let's take it back.
All the way back.
For Ghost Adventures. Yeah, so this is a classic episode, the original crew, Zach's extreme hair and pumped up arms where you're sure he's got to be on steroids with his random mood swings. And, there was just a lot of those. And I'm not trying to be rude. Maybe I shouldn't start that dirty rumor, but
everyone who's seen the show knows what you're talking about. I don't think you're starting anything.
Oh, I think they know. I mean, those arms were pumped, and he was nuts sometimes.
He's actually slimmed down some. Even my husband noticed. He's like, he's not pumping iron or taking steroids anymore, huh?
Well, he's always got like a big coat on now. It seems like he's more covered up, and he doesn't have as many of his outbursts either. Right, yeah. So maybe it's not steroids. Maybe he has like, I don't know, ADD or something. I don't know. Something was going on. Maybe he was just so new at it and he was nervous. I know I get like really weird even doing these podcasts sometimes. That's caffeine.
Well, that might be his excuse.
Maybe he was a caffeine junkie. Yeah.
You have to if you're staying up that late all the time.
Right. And so I have like 10 cups of coffee before we start podcasting because we have to do it for so long, and I'm trying to keep my energy up. And so maybe that's all he was doing, as he was just like downing like 5-hour energies. And that's why he was having these extreme mood swings. I mean, I'm sweating to death right now. So.
And it's not steroids. It's just the coffee.
No. Steroids do make me a monster, though. Every time I've had to take them for like poison ivy or whatever, I'm a bigger mega bitch than I am.
So maybe steroids do something like, I didn't know that. I don't remember ever taking them for anything. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Well, not everybody has that reaction, but some do. Anyways, they had a lot of those extreme mood swing moments, but they had a lot of, oh my God, I feel this and this feels crazy and stuff like that. But the only really hardcore evidence that they got was up on the ramparts, which is the second floor. They had gotten on camera, just like on a static cam, they had gotten like what looked like somebody trying to light a match. There was like sparks of light going on, and then like a solid light, and then it kind of dissipates or it moves out of frame.
Yeah, dude, with the lantern, right? Yes.
Right? So it goes totally along with
That's
story
crazy.
of that. And I love when that happens, when they tell you, this is the story of the location that most people see, and then they actually catch it on camera.
Yeah.
There's so many times they get EVPs and they kind of, twist the words around so it fits with the stories. But this was legit on camera, matches what people had seen.
I don't remember that. I mean, I remember this episode, and that's honestly probably where I learned about the floating head, was from this episode.
Yeah, they talked about it in that. They did not come across any of that, though. They didn't see any floating head.
Oh, man. Bummer.
That would be pretty extreme if they did.
That would make this like the episode to watch then, right?
I know. That they also reported bad feelings in that dungeon-like room that Dolores and the captain were said to be held, and they died, and they had icky feelings in this room that's labeled jail. And I believe it probably was the jail. It's just weird because it's right off of where the soldiers would sleep, but it looks almost like you can't go in the room when you tour the Castillo. This room, the door's locked, but you can look into the little windows, and it looks like a dirt floor in there, and it's very cave-like and stuff.
Oh man,
so
that sucks that you couldn't go into it. But I can totally see you like pushing people out of the way so that you can get to the window. And you're like, get away from me! This is my moment to look in the window. Go!
Oh, I was all up in the window, taking up all the space with my camera, trying to take pictures in there. And I also found on a YouTube channel named Randy and Anna. Cute little couple. And they had a friend that was with them, and she showed a photo that her parents had taken actually when they visited of a face in that window.
No.
I didn't get any faces.
I know. How come that we never luck out like that? It's like, I just want to see the floating head. I want to see the face. Randy and Anna got it. Where's our moment?
They weren't even trying that hard.
They were just taking pictures. Well, that's sweet for them. That's super, super cool. So it can happen, is what you're saying, to regular old people like us.
Yes. And it was a very creepy, like, kind of distorted face and stuff. But, I mean, like I said, I took multiple pictures of this, and I don't see how anything else could have made what was going on there.
Nice. Because
it's open. There's nothing like in the way to kind of matrix it or anything like that. So it was a good photo.
Why do you think they have this room closed off so that you can't get in? Is it dangerous? Is it like falling apart? They don't want to be responsible?
The actual park services on Ghost Adventures, I think, had said that they had a psychic go in there, and the psychic had like really bad experience and felt really terrible. And Ghost Adventures was saying all that stuff too. They didn't have any actual evidence to back it up, but they were saying they felt really terrible in there. So one could say they close it off because it's dangerous to people, because you might have a horrible reaction and whatnot.
Yeah.
And some could say it's because there's dirt floors in there and they didn't want you tracking that dirt all through their
floor.
Really?
That's funny.
I mean, that's just the mom in me with that logic.
Don't
really
be tracking
don't know.
your dirty shoes all the way through my fort. Do you understand me? Take that shit back. Keep it out there.
I'm just going to lock this room up. Nobody can play in there now. So like I said, Ghost Adventures was not I didn't watch that episode and was like, oh my God, this place is the best. Nope. It was actually in 2016, the Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
No shit.
I don't even watch their show, really.
Maybe, yeah, okay. Then maybe that's the one that I saw, because I was thinking Ghost Hunters. I watched the Tennessee Wraith Chasers, so it might have been then that I saw.
Yeah.
Doogie, yeah, that's right. They sat out there in that yard, didn't they? Trying to wait for that head.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I really wanted to see that head.
Yeah.
They have that, I could see where you would get it mixed up with Ghost Hunters. And when you said that, I thought that's maybe what we were talking about. But yeah, this was back in their Destination America days.
Yeah.
And back then, I didn't even know they had a show. I'm so pro Travel Channel that I can't get, I don't watch other channels, it seems like. Anyways, when they investigated the location, they had a much more eventful evening. And just because I was kind of dissing on Zach and giving him a hard time about his little mood swings and stuff, we don't know what he was going through then.
Yeah, no.
But let me throw a little bit of that towards the Tennessee Wraith chasers. Not that they're on steroids. What I want to bring up is I don't understand how some of them are really buff.
Yeah.
But they're not having mood swings, so I think they might just be doing it by diet and exercise. But
so polite.
Some of them were wearing baseball caps while they were ghost hunting, though. And I'm like, how can you do that? Sometimes I think the frames of my glasses, I feel like, are in my way. And you have a whole area of your vision taken out by the brim of your hat. How are you doing that?
I think that they're so concerned with their, like, the gel being just right in their hair that they're just like, nope, we're just going to ball cap it.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares what the gel looks like? Shave it off then.
Which... Going back to Zach Bagans real quick and how he dresses different now, he also wears a hat all the time.
All the time.
I mean, a lot. And so I started to think, is he losing his hair?
Oh, I was just going to go there. I was so going to go there. I'm like, maybe it's that, I mean, hey, look, guys, we get it. None of us are as young as we used to be. Totally understand. But it's a thing now to be bald, to just shave it off.
I'm going to insist that he keeps the hats for a little bit longer. I really like it. I like it. It's like he's not even trying. And it looks good. Yeah.
No, he's not. I don't know. I feel like it's super mission man, like, I don't know, military almost, with the big coat and the big glasses and the big hat.
I can see that. It's definitely become like a uniform for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Tennessee Wraith chasers kind of do that too, like the way they dress. Yeah. Anyways, so back to the investigation and all the awesome evidence that they got. In that dungeon room, the one that had been walled up, they had gotten like some flashlight communication or activity where it was turning on and off by themselves while they were trying to do an EVP session. I don't think they actually got any EVPs, but they did get the flashlight responding to them. And I had seen on a YouTube channel called Matt's Rad Show.
Why didn't we get that name first? That's awesome.
I don't know why we try to sound professional when we could have just been like, this shit is good.
Just watch it, guys.
It's cool. Just watch it. So Matt runs into a girl named Michelle in this room, and she's got a millimeter in her hand.
Oh, shit.
And she was getting EMF hits, like, in certain spots. And it happened more so when Matt would be, like, away from her. Okay. It would happen, and then instead of, like, when he was, like, right next to her and kind of asking for it to happen, So that was kind of cool. And there's no electricity in this room. Oh, no, wait, there's a light. I'm so stupid. There was a light in there. But, I mean, it wasn't happening right next to the light or anything. You know how those...
In the fort?
In the fort, they had... I mean, it wasn't originally like this, but... For purposes, they have wired a light in this room in one little corner. It wasn't necessarily happening right by this light or anything like that. It was happening in spots of the room.
Of course, when you originally said, yes, of course there was a light, I'm thinking, yeah, dude, with the lantern again. Oh, my God. But no, this was like a legit light.
Yeah, I realized I sound stupid when I was like, there's no electricity. No, I was not standing in this pitch dark room or nothing. There's a light in there. So the Tennessee Wraith Chasers also had some interesting K2 hits. They had set up this whole, or role played out like a whole execution scene.
Love it.
There's apparently this is the kind of stuff that we would do, try to act it out to really connect with the spirits.
It's that whole Tennessee vibe, man. That's all it is.
That's what we are. We're just very dramatic. We like playing dress up and stuff. So they think they took these old guns that, of course, have blanks in them and stuff, and one of the dudes was blindfolded, and they took him in front of the wall that's got all these little holes in it, because this is where they would execute people. So he stood up against the wall, and then they fired the blanks, and he's holding the K2 meter, and he got a hit right after the gunfire.
Oh, nice.
So unless blanks put off energy, I mean, that's something else, because it wasn't happening before, and then it happened with that activity.
Who shot the other gun? Was it another one of the members of the Tennessee Wraith Chasers?
Yeah, all of them were down there. So the other three, right? something like that.
I guess it depends. It was 2016, right?
Yeah. I noticed that one of the guys is not even on that show anymore. Like he's been switched out for another dude. So
I don't know. They do paranormal towns or haunted towns or something like that.
yeah, but now it's like a totally different guy, and the other guy's not in it. And the guy that's not in it, God, I wish I could remember his name so we weren't just like that guy and this guy.
Yeah. It was the guy in the jeans. He had the pockets.
Well, this guy had shorts on, and he's got a super Southern accent. I appreciate it, is the thing. Being from Tennessee and not hearing those accents as much anymore at all, being out in Arizona. So this guy was super country. And then when this room that was walled up, they didn't make a regular doorway. When they cut it open and they're allowing people to go in there now for the tour, it's not you just walk in. It's a child-size little cutout that you have to climb or whatever. I'm kind of short, so I can kind of go like a turtle underneath it. But other people might have to get on their knees a little bit and scoot through this little hole to get into this room. So this is a big dude. And as he's going in and out of this room, and the cameraman was still in the dungeon room, and he's crawling through. Oh, yeah, total butt crack.
Oh,
and
no.
Why did they leave that in there?
They should have edited that out. What is wrong with them?
I bet they thought it was funny, but I was just like, they just made X-rated.
I don't remember that at all.
It was funny, and I just was like, yeah, why didn't they edit that out? But that guy, whatever his name is, he had this whole idea about how they kept seeing things out of their peripheral vision. So he came up with an idea, him and another guy came up with an idea of cutting holes in like safety goggles. They blacked out the front of the safety goggles, and then they cut holes, and then they sat like back, and then they were just kind of watching around.
This shit behind. Yeah.
They also made some kind of like mirror divider or something and put that on their cameras, like mounted it in front of their cameras so that their cameras would have like only a peripheral vision as well. So
pretty slick.
Yeah, it was like they're really being innovative and trying these different things out.
They're always like coming up with some wacky idea to investigate ghosts. And this was one of those ideas that I remember so well because I'm like, that makes so much sense, because you're always seeing something just out of the corner of your eye. As you turn to look, it's gone, but you're only looking in the peripheral. I mean, that's a good idea.
Yeah, like what are you missing? Because we always talk about how when we start getting carried away, just kind of talking to ourselves and stuff, that's when we're talking to each other, not ourselves. Talking to each other, that activity will start to happen. So it's kind of like the spirits are always there, but they're kind of watching you. And they're not going to necessarily be in front of you. They're going to be trying to hide from you too. So, I loved how innovative they were trying to be. And it's not like it's something that like I said, I didn't really watch the show. So I don't know if that's something that they tried out at different, like other locations. Or if it was just like, what would be really fun? Let's just try this one experiment.
I think they only did it there, but I could be wrong.
No, but I love that, even if that is the only time they did it, because they were just like, let's see how this works.
Right.
So when they did that, they actually saw flashes of light, it kind of like what Ghost Adventures got on that second floor. And this was it wasn't on the second floor, but it was in an upper window. Like there really is only 2 floors, but the rooms have really high ceilings. And so there's windows way above where people could not be walking. And they were seeing flashes of light in that window, kind of second floor window, but not second floor window type thing. And then when they did the whole experiment, they were seeing things with their goggles, I think I see this and stuff like that. But they actually got on camera a flashing light in like a window, like an upper window. So there is actually only 2 floors to the place, but there's really high ceilings on the first floor. So there's windows that are up way high where people really cannot walk. And there was a flashing light, and that was caught on that camera that they had made the dividers and stuff like that. And that's a lot like what happened on Ghost Adventures with that flashing light. It was kind of the same effect going on. So it was kind of cool that they did that experiment and then they got something out of it.
No shit. And it's so crazy that 2 different paranormal groups have gone in on TV and have almost caught the exact same phenomenon. And it's one of those phenomenons that you're being told right away, this is something that happens all the time. And boom, here it is. And boom, here it is. This is almost that thing that people say, you can't get this shit to happen on cue. But it seems like this dude's like, he's like, come on, it is 6:01. It is my time to shine. Let's go. Light that shit up. He is on it.
Well, if you think about it, every day he had to go out and light the lanterns at a certain time at night.
Right.
Just like when the lights
and
cut
he's
on.
Still doing it.
Light type thing. So it's really cool.
That's impressive.
So what's also really impressive, and this is the coolest thing that they got, and this is what it happened at the end of the show. You know, I was enjoying the whole thing. They were getting a lot more evidence than Ghost Adventures did, but this left me like mouth drop, mic drop. It's over. This place is so impressive. So with one of their static cams, and they didn't even know they had this until they went home and reviewed all their evidence, or went wherever and reviewed all their evidence. But on one of their static cams, they caught a full body, like white, misty looking apparition.
No way.
It was on the main ground floor, and it just had walked. You just see it for you get a good view on it. Yeah. It's not like it's real quick or anything, but it walks in front of a doorway along the wall. The walls are kind of light colored, and then it walks in front of a dark doorway, and then you see it come to the other side, and then it's gone.
Wow.
And that was it. And it was so funny to me because, like I said, they got this after reviewing their evidence. No. They didn't see it while they were there. No. And I'm just thinking of the loads of footage that I have from the places that we have been to. That I've yet to been able to completely watch. Right. And I always joke to to other people and stuff, I've probably got some of the most amazing paranormal evidence, and I just won't even know it until I retire 30 years.
Right, where you can actually sit down and review your evidence, right? I mean, because that's the thing. We're not a team of 6 people. We don't have like a paranormal bunker where we go back from our locations and we all just hunker down with our cups of coffee and go through our evidence. No. We come back from our paranormal investigations and we go back to work and we go back to school and we do like regular people shit because we're regular people. We don't have this opportunity like them. And that's funny that they found it afterwards, which reminds me of something that would totally happen to us because it's like we have cameras set up all over the place and a year or so later we'll review it.
But we'll be like, oh my God, you've got to see. But this was, and the way that they did it for the show is it was one guy that must have found it, was revealing it to the other guy. So it's kind of like if I'm watching, all our evidence and then I send it to you and like, oh my God, you got to watch this. And they pretended like they were all surprised, but you don't really know. They probably were told off camera and blah, blah, blah. But however that goes, it was just so funny to me. I was like, I probably have something like that.
I know, right? Yeah.
Here I am like so impressed and mouth dropped. And I'm like, I should just go through my own shit. But I don't know that I have any full body apparitions like this. It was really impressive what they found. I've always, like I said, I watched the Ghost Adventures episode in 2013 and I was very intrigued by the location. I love old forts and history and stuff like that. I thought this would be a great place to explore. Yeah. And then after watching that episode from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers, I was just like, Yep. That's where we're going. That's the tour we're taking.
She's got a map on her wall, and it's got all these little red pegs in it. It looks like a murderer's map, but it's just the paranormal locations map. She walked right over, and she put that peg right on in. She's like, this is it, guys. We're going there.
This is where we're going. But speaking of the kind of the walls and stuff and mapping it out, and you've watched the show, so you know this. I didn't know this. At the end of the Tennessee Wraith Chasers shows, they always will hang up a picture that they took in front of their haunted location. That also that made me think of us though, because we always behind you there's all kinds of trinkets from the places that we've been. Behind me there's pictures from locations that we've been. Yet for them, they take full on Vogue posing pictures.
GQ with these guys and their bling bling jeans. And seriously, I have not seen jeans like that with all the bling on it since I left Tennessee. So apparently that is just in that area. It's native to that land, I guess I should say. So yes.
They're just trying to stay connected to their roots with those blinged out jeans. Don't judge them.
I'm not. I actually 100%. I love these guys. I feel more of a connection to them, especially just like you mentioned. I mean, I've got all my trinkets back here. I mentioned every time I go to a location, I want a piece of it. I never even thought about doing a glamour shots pose with you in front of the place. You know, we try and take a quick selfie as we're either like running away because we're trespassing or, you know, because I'm being haunted by some shit and I can't shake it off. But Wendy does have like a whole array of photos behind her and it's beautiful.
And we're in none of them.
We're in none of them.
Are the worst. It's all about the location and the history for us.
Yeah.
And that's not to say they're conceited or anything like that. They're selling their show, so they have to sell themselves. We're not necessarily doing that, I guess.
No.
But, you know, we're just not the type of people that are.
Right.
For one, it's always just the two of us, so who's going to take the picture? So
just like you said, for us, it's being at that building. Finally, we've made it. This is the building. This is our stamp. And unfortunately, any of those pictures that are behind Wendy that I'm looking at right now, she could have found one of these pictures online and just put it on a photo. I know that she didn't. I know that those are our photos. I guess the difference is when they're posing in front of those buildings, it's like them putting their footprint on it. It's like, here we are, guys. We're here. We don't do that. We love the building. We love the history for what it is. We don't have to put our footprint on it. It's just the fact that we experienced it. I mean, I think that's mostly what it is for us.
yeah, except for taking like pieces of it with us
yes,
as well.
and that too. Well, that's just because of our nature.
When we can.
We just like to collect things. That's all. Don't hate me because I need my
We're
collection.
just weird like that. But as someone who hasn't watched their show very much, you know, I really did like it.
Yeah.
I think I will start watching more of their new show, and go back and watch the old ones too. Because you know what came on after the Castillo de San Marcos was the old Marine Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. I talked about that a few episodes ago, and I thought they don't let anybody in.
They let Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
A year after I moved to Arizona, they let a fucking paranormal group in there.
Yeah, I
mean, of course, they're on TV and they're big.
Those guys.
Yeah, but whatever.
I know. I hear you. It's disheartening because you wanted it for so long, and they didn't let anybody go in there. And then all of a sudden, you got a TV show? You can come in?
Yeah.
That's not fair. It's not
well,
fair.
I didn't get to watch the whole episode. It just kind of came on afterwards. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going back to watch that. But I've yet to do that because of that whole busy work thing.
Work. Yeah.
My 8 jobs.
Life.
But
yeah.
I looked it up because they kept saying this was in 2016. Yeah, it was the same year, same season. It was in 2016, and they were saying because they're going to tear it down soon and they're going to build, you know, apartments or whatever. I looked it up. It's still standing today, the old Marine Hospital. They do have massive plans to renovate it. They're not going to tear the building down.
Oh.
They're going to keep they're trying at least to keep the original structures, and they are going to make them very nice apartments and have like pools and dog parks and all kinds of stuff there. That's what they say. They haven't done it.
Haunted dog parks? Fuck yes.
But, so I still have family in that area, and my niece just graduated, and she's going to be going to the University of Memphis. And I thought, oh my God, when they finish this, I wonder, can she please go live there in these apartments?
Yes. Right? Aunt Wendy's got to come and make a visit. Like every month.
Totally.
My monthly visit. I'm just checking on you. I just need to make sure that you are staying on top of your studies. And now you go to sleep because I have some investigating to do.
Don't worry about the ghosts.
Don't worry about them. I'll take care of this. I have the sage. But look, I thought that the Tennessee Wraith Chasers had actually been there multiple times. Am I wrong on that? I thought they'd been there twice.
The old Marine Hospital?
Yeah.
I believe back in the day before they had a TV show, because like I said, I didn't even know they had one, but I swear when we were still there, I think we had went to it was a B&B, Magnolia. No,
Magnolia.
Something in Bolivar.
Yeah.
Lots of people were talking about the Tennessee Wraith Chasers and where they were going and what they were doing, and they were making documentaries and stuff like that. So when I was researching other places, because they're from our area, when I was researching other locations, I could have swore they were the only ones that had been in there and had reported ghosts. However, that wasn't on TV.
Right.
You know, I got a bad memory, but there's some things that just come so clearly to me. They had let them in. they had let them into the metal museum right next to it, which was a part of the hospital before. And then that was it. They weren't letting people in after that. They said it wasn't safe to go in there. And then they blew up and became a big thing.
Yeah, they, they did that Halloween episode at the Exorcist house. And I think that's what actually set them off to get their whole career started. Lucky guys. I mean, I would love to go to the Exorcist house.
Just to think about it, we were in a lot of the same spaces as them. And we were like, the Tennessee Wraith Chasers were just here. And now we're here and stuff like that.
We were cute into the same things.
It would have been
to run into them.
To run into them and make a connection like we have with some other paranormal investigators. Stuff.
That would have been sweet.
Because they do really seem like down-to-earth guys, and I like their style.
They've been to Old Pittsburgh Hospital. They've been there a couple of times, too. South Pittsburgh? I don't remember what it's called. It's the same one that Robin wants to go to, or actually the one that she's been to, like, several times.
Yeah.
They've been there. They did some more of their wacky... I say wacky... Inventions. Yeah, they did another invention there. It was actually really wicked. If you can catch that episode, they pulled out something that was really wild in that one.
I'll have to look it up. So their show was really interesting and everything, and I was super excited to visit the Castillo. My kids actually really enjoyed it. We just happened upon a cannon firing time as well, with like their first firing of the day. It was really funny because they were shooting off the cannon, and it's a blank or whatever. It's not actually shooting anything off, I think. I don't know. There's so much smoke, you don't even really know. But at the same time, there was a boat going across because it's right next to the water. There was a boat going across, and it was playing Fat Bottom Girls by Queen.
Oh, sweet.
And it was just really weird. Like, everybody's being really quiet, waiting for this cannon to go off. And then it's like Freddie Mercury in the background. It's like, okay. But before the firing of the cannon went off, my oldest and I were trying to hang out in the dungeon. Like, we were planning on staying down there while the cannon went off, and I had my equipment with us, and we wanted to see if there would be a reaction. I was really proud. That was a proud mama moment when my son was like into staying in this dark room with me, but then he gave up real quick, and he was like, actually, I just want to see the cannon be fired.
Oh, no.
So then I'm in the room by myself, and then some other people showed up, and I'm like, you're ruining this for me. So I went to go watch the cannon as well. And then I got to catch the boat going by, which was really cool.
That's funny.
But he did repeatedly, my oldest, say that room felt really weird. He was mostly saying it was hot, which it was hot, but he was almost like panicking. It was hot. And he's never been claustrophobic before, so I don't know if that just had something to do with it or whatnot. But it was interesting to watch him. I didn't have any bad feelings in there. I didn't have bad feelings through the whole thing. But, it was kind of just like touring a museum. It was a very cool museum. I did review the little bit because we only record it like a little bit. I only recorded a little bit here and there. I did review it. I didn't have anything, but it was fun to explore. I didn't get any evidence out of it. It was really cool to have that moment with my son. I definitely recommend everybody going. At night, we did go back there again and then just kind of walked around the outside. Again, I didn't get anything. It was kind of noisy out when we went from the town, and people on the water making noise. Yeah. But the cool cemetery is right across the street. We got to take pictures there, and it's right by the old city gates, which is the original city gates and everything. The whole town's really cool. It's a cool experience. If I had more time, we definitely should go. We definitely should get one of those places downtown in the historic area and sit out on the porch and wait for these ghosts to go by. And then
just have our glasses of wine and just our video cameras, right?
Yeah, just go and
watch. I mean, if it's that easy.
I think it might be.
Okay, but I still want to visit the fort too. So, I mean, is that okay?
Oh, no, we're totally going back to the fort as well.
Oh, but sitting out on the porch and just watching the ghosts go by, I mean, that would just be that'd be great. That'd be the greatest. Hey, and if it's that easy, how come? I mean, there's got to be people in Florida filming this, right? Am I missing something?
I mean, totally. I saw a bunch of videos on YouTube, but I only specifically kind of looked for things.
Oh, yeah.
The Castillo. And there were other people that, were walking around on the outside of it, and they were doing spirit box sessions, and they were getting voices There was one guy who was out there with his children, and he even like, you know how you can put like a little subtitle or whatever down on the video? He was like, you know, because it's not how it actually said it, but it was basically like pointing out, because children are more susceptible to these things and more sensitive to them. And so that's why my kids are with me. And it was like, you could tell it was like an older girl and a younger girl, maybe.
Wow.
And they were talking about over by the wall where the Tennessee Wraith Chasers had done the, you know, role-playing execution.
Yeah.
The youngest girl and the older girl were talking about being sick, like feeling sick in that area. And they also both claimed to see something up on the ramparts.
Oh my God.
Like a guy standing there. They were repeatedly being like, don't you see that guy? Don't you see that guy?
What?
And the dad's like, where? I mean, I assume dad, unless he just stole these children for this experiment. But he's like, I don't see it. And they're like, yeah, no, he's totally just standing right there.
Oh my God. So we need a kid.
Yes. And spirit boxes seem to work okay out there as well. There was one guy, and he was one of those, you talked about this before, urban explorers, you know, doing air quotes. He had jumped the fence and broken into cemeteries around town.
Wow.
It's like, okay, whatever. We've all been in cemeteries when we weren't supposed to. But then he rolls up to the Castillo, and he's walking the grounds, and he says, I'm just looking for a way in. I'm like, this dude obviously didn't do his homework. This place has never been taken. I don't think you're going to scale this wall before a police officer finds you.
Yeah.
So he also used the spirit box and was getting some stuff, but you know, it wasn't, I saw another group that was having better luck with that.
He didn't like parkour his way into the place.
I think that's what he thought he was going to do.
God.
But these walls are pretty massive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that's not happening.
That's crazy.
It's a good experience. Everybody should go and visit it just for the history as well. And then we totally have to go back. I have to go back without those children, because you're not going to want to go to the Alligator Farm. So we'll have lots more time on our hands.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about me and alligators. We just don't click. That's just not my thing. Do they have a cat farm? I'm totally into cats.
No, the alligators eat all of them.
No,
I'm sure.
I don't. Yeah, no. I am on board with the ghost places. Keep me away from the alligators. I mean, I don't know. I have a fear of them, so not my thing.
I think that's fair to have a fear of alligators.
Thanks.
But yeah, that's my story. That's it.
I think it's a good story. So, and I think that if any of you guys that are listening to this podcast have been to this location and have seen a floating head, or have just been, you know, there at the time that they shot off the cannons and maybe heard some fat bottom girls, why don't you write to us and share with us your experience? So, not necessarily the fat bottom girls experience, because that's not so much paranormal. I'm sure lots of people just listen to Queen.
Yeah, as they should.
As they should, right. But please, why don't you just write to us? We're creaturesofthenight@gmail.com, or follow us on Instagram, COTN_paranormal. But if you want to skip the whole underscore, then visit us on Facebook or Twitter. It's COTN Paranormal.
You can send us a private message, or you can post on any of our posts and tell us what you've experienced and just kind of discuss and communicate things with us. We love it. We love talking about this all the time, so we'd love to talk to you about it.
We're going to post that picture that Wendy had discussed during this episode. It's going to be out this week. So when you see that, please feed us, your thoughts. What do you see? Have you caught anything like that? We'd love to hear about it. So definitely like us and subscribe to our podcast so that we can keep doing these amazing shows for you. Wendy won't keep going to these awesome places if you don't. Well, no, that's a lie. She'll keep going.
I totally would, yeah.
But you won't hear about them unless you subscribe. We need subscribers.
That's right. You won't hear about it. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got. Let us know what you think about the photo. If you've got some criticisms to it, I'd love to hear it, because it's suspect to me as well. It's so good. It's so might be bad, might not be true. And just please rate and review so you can tell us how you like these stories and if you think there's anything that we should do differently.
And we'll try our best, but
after we drink too much, we might just forget what you told us to. So.
Or how to pronounce words.
Hey, that's never going to stop. I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. But as always, thank you so much for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.